Thank you very much, and welcome to everyone who's here. This is the age of COVID, so I see everyone on the screen, and I'm scrolling back and forth. But I think it's commendable that all of you are committing to this program, which is a wonderful exploration. I've been asked to talk for 10 minutes, which I will do. But I want to set the stage. I think we have the Catholic Church is a compellingly beautiful church. It's a church that's inspiring. It has a rich history of love and selflessness. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the church, from my experience, is a flawed institution, and it's flawed because it's developed by human beings within contemporaneous cultures. And so the church over the years has reflected the directions and styles of those cultures. And today we're at a very, I think, difficult and important crossroads. My history as a Catholic began in Baltimore, Maryland, which is the city in which I grew up. And if you know much about Catholic history, you know that that is where the Catholic hierarchy began in the United States, with the very first bishop, John Carroll, and a structure. It is also the case that the church was one of the largest slaveholders in Maryland. And the church also had many parishioners, many followers who were also owners of slaves. In fact, the very first bishop, John Carroll, himself was an owner of enslaved persons. My church was St. Pius V, and that is where, in a segregated city, I learned that the church was also segregated. St. Pius V was an all African American parish because the churches in Baltimore were segregated. In fact, the cathedral, the Basilica of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, has to this day special balconies in the back. The balconies were for African Americans so that they would not mix in with the broader parish. So slavery and the church were partners for hundreds of years in Maryland. My church, St. Pius V, had an order of priests who were called Josephites from the Society of St. Joseph of the Sacred Heart. These priests were dedicated to serving African American people, beginning with emancipated slaves when the order was brought to Maryland in 1871. We also had nuns, and the nuns were of the order of the Oblate Sisters of Providence. They were the very first order of African American nuns in the United States, and their mission was to serve young African American girls. They were founded by Mother Mary Lang in 1828, and she is now on a path to canonization. And I mentioned these backgrounds because this was the structure in which I grew up: a segregated society, segregated schools, segregated lunchrooms, segregated everything, and also a very, very segregated Catholic Church. The church has been working diligently to overcome this particular history. My family were devout Catholics, both my mother and father. My mother was particularly active, and she was active in the Archdiocese of Baltimore, one of the first African Americans to become prominent within that structure. She served for many years on the Archdiocesan Finance Council. My mother also received a papal medal, so she's very, very devoted to the church. The key issue, however, was that everything was separate at the time. So I learned a great deal about the beauty of the church. And in fact, as a little aside, you know, my background academically is ancient Greek and Latin. The reason I studied Latin to begin with, so that I could understand what the priest was saying. Because at that time, for those of you who look to be in my age range, the Mass was conducted very differently. It was conducted in Latin. The priest had his back turned toward the parishioners. And so that's how I entered my field. But as I found that I began to love the languages, I also developed a deeper sense of belonging with the church itself, and have been working as hard as I can to help people within the church understand that the message of Christ, as was mentioned in John 13:34, when he said, I give you a new commandment. My commandment is to love one another. That is how the church began and strayed from that through slavery, Jim Crow, and all of these other separatist trends that move through society. Where we are now, I think, is in a very important place, where the specter of race is being discussed very openly, where wonderful programs like this are being offered so that people can share their experiences and feelings. And this is a very, very important move, because it is a path for us to follow as Catholics in reinventing the church, because this is what we do as people, reinventing the church so that it moves closer to its original tenets. Uh, I will conclude, because I'm close to my 10 minutes, by saying this. After my journey through a segregated Baltimore and a segregated Catholic church, I came to San Diego in 1993. And in San Diego, I found my parish, St. Rita's Catholic Church in Southeast San Diego. I wanted a connection with that. It's probably the most multicultural parish within the Diocese of San Diego. I became active in the diocese. I served for 15 years on the Finance Council. And in my church, I'm a lector, I'm a Eucharistic minister, and I chair the Parish Finance Council. So I have a very full involvement. But what I love about the church is its multicultural spirit. We have 7 choirs, a Samoan choir, a gospel choir. It's a complete celebration of multicultural heritages, and in a manner that I never experienced when I was growing up in this sort of rigid black-white structure. So my message is that we have a challenge as Catholics, and our challenge is to listen carefully to understand the different cultures that other Catholics come from, and to work as hard as we can to bring our church back to its original founding as a church of love, a church of acceptance, a church, as Jesus said, founded on the notion that we should all love each other. And I think this program tonight is a very important step in that direction. So I congratulate you for being part of this very, very important inaugural program. Thank you.